Mike Pence is running for president. The former VP filed his candidacy today. He's going up against several Republican candidates, including his former boss, Donald Trump, who is enjoying a wide lead in the polls. Now, for some insight on the upcoming campaign, we've asked Aaron Dusso, the chair of the Department of Political Science at IUPUI, to join us today. Mr. Dusso, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. How unusual is it for a former vice president to be running against a former president for the nomination? I don't believe this has happened before.
That's very unusual. Yeah, it's because it's rare to actually have a president run again after having lost.
And Trump has a lead in the polls right now. Does Mike Pence have a chance at taking him and winning the nomination? What does he need to do to make that happen?
I mean, Pence is a long shot right now. He's polling 3 to 4%, which is a pretty distant fourth behind Trump and DeSantis, and even Nikki Haley is about a percentage point ahead of him. So what he needs to do is going to have to define who he is and why people want to vote for him. Because right now, it's not clear who a Mike Pence voter is, perhaps besides a bunch of Hoosiers.
But isn't it clear who Mike Pence is? I mean, he's been through this before. He's run for president before, and he was vice president, 4 years. Do people know who he is at this point?
I think a lot of people know the name, but I'm not sure that they know who he is. I mean, a lot of people have focused on him as a vice president, but during that time, almost all the focus was actually on Donald Trump as president. So he was there, but do they really know who Mike Pence is? And I think he has an opportunity to try and reintroduce himself as someone separate from Donald Trump, which I think is critically important for him because he needs to beat Donald Trump.
Right. Now, how much will his role as VP under Trump play into this campaign, specifically, January 6th? Will that affect his chances? Do you think that he'll bring that up?
I think he'll probably try and avoid, talking about January 6th because he has to attract a lot of voters in the Republican primary who are actually on Trump's side when it comes to January 6th. So I think he needs to kind of sidestep that, and he probably won't talk a lot about his time as vice president. I think he's going to talk more about his personal beliefs, his issues, and try to get people on his side that way. Because ultimately, if he's going to rely on his time as vice president, people might say, well, why don't I just vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, good point. Let's just say he does do what it takes and he gets the nomination. What are his chances against, let's say, Joe Biden? If he, right now, he's the front runner on the Democratic side. What are his chances against a Biden ticket?
I mean, he has as good a chance as anyone. I mean, if you get the Republican nomination, you're pretty much guaranteed 44, 45%. At that point, it's just a matter of can you get that last 4 to 5%? And that is going to be ground game. That's going to be campaigning. That's going to be all the stuff that annoys a lot of people, fascinates me. But, when it comes to a campaign. So does he have a chance? Yeah. I mean, Joe Biden's not polling very well himself. I mean, he's underwater when it comes to his approval rating. So seemingly, Joe Biden is ripe for the plucking. Could Mike Pence do it? Certainly. The odds of him getting there is the challenge for him. Yeah,
that is the challenge right now. Now, do you think that his time as Indiana governor will come up at all as well in this campaign? He did run into some controversy with RFRA. Will that hinder him or help him in the presidential election?
I think he'll rely actually a lot on his time as a governor. Oftentimes we see the governors as one step away from being president, and we see a lot of governors run for presidency because it's seen as an executive branch that you're a final decision maker, and so it's akin to being president, training for being president. So I think he'll rely a lot on it. Now, he'll try to avoid any controversial issues he may have brought up, although he's not controversial among Republican primary voters, so I don't see that it would necessarily be a problem for him.
Exactly. Yeah, that'll be interesting how that plays out. Now, a lot of times it's stated that, or speculated that some candidates get into the race not necessarily thinking they're going to win the presidency, but they want to be there for when they're thinking about vice president. They wanted that choice. Now, this has happened before, he was chosen as Trump's VP. Any chance that he may end up as Trump's VP again?
I think there is zero chance that he becomes the vice president of Donald Trump again, mainly because I think Donald Trump harbors some serious ill will towards Mike Pence. So I don't think there's any chance he would choose Mike Pence again. I have my doubts that Mike Pence would want to be vice president again under Trump.
Understandable. All right. Thank you, Aaron Dusso, the political science chair at IUPUI. We appreciate your insight, and right now we'll just watch and see what happens. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.